Am I talking into a camera or am I just talking to the senator?
Just talk to the senator.
All right. We talked on the phone, but great to meet you. My name is Michael Render.
Nice to meet you. Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. I'm professionally known as Killer Mike. I rap, and I rap about a lot of the stuff that you ran about. And I want to talk about that. I'm a kid that grew up on the west side of Atlanta, not far from here. Working class community, I like money. I've always considered myself a capitalist. I've always tried to invent ways to make money. I remember stuff would fall off the back of a truck. We'd get it. We'd come to school, sell it, whether it was toys, candy, or whatnot. And out of the stuff that I got, or when my grandpa and I go fishing, we catch extra fish, or if one of the neighbors would grow. At the time in my community, people still grew stuff, had chickens in the backyard, stuff like that. You kill a chicken or get eggs, you take it and share it with other people.
We still have chickens in the backyard in Burlington, Vermont.
I definitely should take a visit. But I say that because although I consider myself a capitalist and I wanted to make money young, there was a certain compassion to it. There was a compassionate capitalism of sorts in which I understood I was a part of a bigger community. So the lady, Miss Ruby, whose yard I used to cut for $25, I cut her front and backyard. When she started paying me less, and I complained to my grandmother, and my grandmother explained to me that she didn't have the money she used to have. She didn't have the money she used to have because her Medicaid somehow got affected. But I stayed doing the job because I knew that her yard needed to be cut. It deserved to be cut. She deserved to have the dignity that she had always had. And then I started learning about, in high school, sentiments of other political systems besides capitalism, socialism, communism, what a despot is, you know. And socialism, although preached in a very scary way, boogeyman-like way to citizens of this country now, is not foreign. You were born in 1941. Essentially, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was still president. The things that he was proposing at the time, like Social Security, things of that nature, were considered socialism taking us on the road to communism. And I think that's something very mean and damn near evil that's said when you're talked about, because it doesn't represent what I think your real philosophy is. And people of my community, my ethnic community, haven't had an opportunity to hear you simply say, these are the things I think. So what is socialism and what does it mean to the black community?
All right. What it means to me, what it means to the black community, what it means to the American community is the understanding that when we talk about rights, right?
Yeah.
You have freedom of speech. You can go out on the street corner and give a speech.
Absolutely.
You have the constitutional right to do that.
Absolutely.
But you know what? To be truly free, you need economic rights as well.
Absolutely.
All right? So you can go out and give a speech, but you don't have any food in your stomach, you don't have a house, roof over your head, if you don't have any education, are you really free? And I think that in the richest country in the history of the world, Mike, which is what we are right now, we can do infinitely better in providing economic rights to our people. So when I talk about democratic socialism, this is what I say. You have a right, regardless of your income, to health care.
Absolutely.
I believe that. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, you're old, young, black, white, you have a right to health care. You have a right to have an education. And I think in the year 2015, you have a right to have free tuition in public colleges and universities if you have the ability. I don't think if you're poor, you should be denied that education.
Absolutely.
All right? I think you have a right to have a decent job that pays you a living wage, and you can't make it on $7.25 an hour, which is why we have to raise the minimum wage, and why we need pay equity for women workers. So what I am talking about when I talk about democratic socialism is to make sure that in the richest country in the history of the world, which is what we have right now, that everybody at least has a minimal standard of living and some dignity as a result of that.
So at the end of the day, people want to get paid a fair wage.
Exactly.
Because people get paid a fair wage, people will get to have fairer living conditions.
Absolutely.
People will get to spend more time at home with their children, which gives children a bonus of confidence of, I should go to school and perform well, because now I have a parent that's in the household that can help me.
All right, Mike, you're making a huge point, which we don't talk about all that often. When I was growing up 400 years ago, you know that one person, in those days often the man, could work 40 hours a week.
Absolutely.
And provide for the family.
Absolutely.
And today, what are you seeing all over America? You're seeing husbands and wives working incredibly long hours.
Absolutely.
Are they spending the time with the kids that they should be spending?
They can't.
They can't. So the kids are hanging out in the street corners.
Yep.
Kids are getting into trouble.
Absolutely.
And on it goes. And again, in the richest country in the history of the world, we should not be having the highest level of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth.
But like, I guess, Senator Sanders, like, where are people not seeing the connect? Like, to me, all these things are interconnected. I grew up organizing right down the street with a group of suburban kids, rowdy gang member kids, regular BNA student kids, C&D kids, right down the street, led by a woman named Alice Johnson from Chicago. And she introduced me to the tenements of social justice.
Good.
Right? I didn't know what social justice was. We all were just like, we out here trying to live. What is social justice? And my first lesson of social justice was she organized on the behalf of the Atlanta Fulton Commission on Children and Youth with a woman named Jean Charles Young, Andrew Young's late wife. And she said, there's no way I'm going to organize on the behalf of kids and not have kids a part of that process, not have kids a part of that talk. So you seem to be the only candidate that is inclusive of ideas that you just can bring to the table, ideas other people. Like, I'm literally here on a tweet. I'm here because I tweeted, I thought your ideas were progressive and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And the response is that you're here. That's a very different narrative than anyone running for a national office, especially U.S. president. You are different. Why? Because you are certainly shrewd enough to be a politician of a different manner. You're certainly smart enough and have been here enough moons to know how to properly take advantage of the political system.
Let's back up.
But why?
Yeah, I am different.
Why?
Because I never got into politics. See, a lot of people get into politics and they say, okay, I'm 24 now. Where will I be when I'm 30?
Yeah.
Maybe by the time I'm 54, I can run for president of the United States. They got it all calculated.
Gotcha.
All right. I ran for office the first time in my life for the United States Senate in the state of Vermont. You know what percentage of the vote I got, Mike? Take a wild and crazy guess.
15, 20?
2%.
I was really going to guess that.
All right. Now, would I be a smart politician to run on a third party, not the Democratic Party, not the Republican Party, running on a small third party, talking about, in those days, social and economic justice and the war in Vietnam? All right? So I was a different type of politician. And I ran a year later. You know what I got? 1% of the vote. I thought I was going in the wrong direction. All right. So I think it's fair to say that my political career is different than anybody else's. Because I didn't get into politics to figure out how I could become president or a senator. I got into politics because I give a damn. All right? Because I do think it is an outrage that we have people sleeping out on the streets in this country. That 51% of young African American kids are unemployed or underemployed. That millions of people don't have any health insurance. That's what I feel in my gut. And that's what I'm fighting to change. Is that a good answer?
That is a good answer. That's an answer that I think people need to hear. I trust old people. I'm going to be very frank. Not all old people.
Well, I'll talk to some old people. I myself, as a young person, I respect old people myself.
I say that because my grandparents raised me. I was raised by people who were born in 1922 and 1932. And their relationship to government, it was radically different than young people.
Absolutely.
You know, their relationship to government was one that was always fluid. They understood that change would come. They understood that you weren't always going to be happy, but their thoughts and concerns were bigger than their individual needs at every given hour. And it seems that in my lifetime, I'm an old man by my sport. I rap. 40 years old is an old age in rap. Luckily, I'm still relevant for whatever reason, but I've been around long enough to see this country be a very, very selfish country. Very, very selfish. I saw steel industry leave in the 80s. I saw arts and trades get pulled out of public schools. So we have children that are not only not graduating and going to college, but kids who are graduating and don't know how to build a wall. Kids who used to do auto body mechanics and auto repair and aviation. We lost a whole brain trust of service and, of people simply before our own greed.
And not to mention that we have more people in jail.
Exactly. I was going to get to that.
Okay.
So I want to talk about that. But have you, in your 74 years in this great country, seen Americans become more immature, more money consumed, more greedy, more self-absorbed? And is this taking us in a direction where we're destroying the democracy or the republic that we want everyone else to emulate?
Hey, you've said a mouthful. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. And the answer is yes. But I wouldn't say it's all Americans. I would say we have a culture now. Look, in America, in the world, there's always been rich and poor, right?
Yeah.
It's always been boss and worker.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, there was some kind of social contract that said, I own the company, I'm making money, I'm going to share it with you.
Yeah.
Right? I make more than you do, but you're going to get something.
Yeah.
What you got right now, this is the culture. I own a company, I'm making money. I can make more money by going to China.
Yeah.
Throw you and your family and everybody else who works for me out on the street. I don't give a bloody damn.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter to me. I can avoid paying taxes by putting my money in the Cayman Islands and not pay a nickel in federal taxes. All right? I don't care that we have a deficit. I don't care that we need decent revenue coming in. I can avoid paying taxes. I have no responsibility to anybody else other than myself. Is this what's going on the top? Absolutely. You saw the whole Wall Street business. Their greed and illegal behavior helped destroy the country. Do you think they gave a damn? Do you think they stayed up nights worrying about it? No. So what you got on top is incredible greed. I don't think it's pervasive. I don't think everybody in America is like that.
Yeah.
But that's the culture of the people on top. Greed is their mantra. It's what they believe, and we got to change that.
But it seems to be like what the former middle class is worshiping now. Like, you know, when you look at television, when, you know, I hate the name, well, you look at Fox, you look at CNN, you look at MSNBC, because a lot of times I don't even see the difference between newscasters. But it seems that people are voting against their own best interests.
Yes.
When people vote against your socialist rhetoric, they say, like, they're like the people that commented on my Instagram, for instance, when I said I was going to be at your rally today and we're going to have this conversation, they're going to lead us to socialism, communism, Mike. And I'm thinking to myself, but you're a former veteran who doesn't get the proper medical benefits that you deserve through the VA. You're a former veteran who doesn't own a home because you don't have the proper incentive. The government and banks don't have the incentive to make you a homeowner like post-World War II if you were a white veteran. It was different from black veterans. But you don't have the basic rights that he's trying to give you, but we have such a worship or a theory that I'm going to be a millionaire one day. What if that one day never comes? What looks after you then?
Now, that one day is not going to come for the vast majority
I
of
don't
the
think
people.
so,
Some people do. But the two questions, even if it does come,
Yeah.
is that what you think society should be about? Would you rather live in a community where everybody was doing pretty well,
Yeah.
rather than a community where you have people out on the streets and some people making billions?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
So that's the main point. Second of all, you know, I think that in terms of our campaign, you know, we started, if I were to be here in Atlanta 7 months ago, I would say that 80–90% of the people in Georgia did not have a clue as to who Bernie Sanders was. So I'm feeling pretty good about our campaign. We have made a lot of progress. We still have a long way to go. I'm running against a woman who's probably the best known woman in the United States of America, all right? It's a tough fight, but we're doing pretty good.
You brought it up. I wasn't going to mention Hillary, and I'm not going to talk long. But are we in this country in danger of creating essentially monarchs of political families? My cousins in South Carolina are now aware of who you are. My cousins-in-law are like calling me, and calling my wife who's from Savannah, Georgia, and families in
They were just in Savannah yesterday.
You brought it up. I wasn't going to mention Hillary, and I'm not going to talk long. But are we in this country in danger of creating essentially monarchs of political families? And is that danger? I think it is.
Okay. Here's what the story is, in my view. Here is, you're putting your finger, although I disagree with you just a little bit,
Okay.
on a huge issue.
Okay.
All right. What does democracy mean? Democracy really means, it's not a complicated idea. It's everybody has input, everybody votes, right?
Yeah.
That's what it means. One person, one vote. What you got now is a economy which is largely rigged in the sense that almost all of the new wealth and income is going to the top 1%.
Gotcha.
Okay. And you have an incredibly unequal distribution of wealth.
Gotcha.
Okay. That's what the one reality. And then you got another reality. And the reality is that the folks who have the money, they're not putting that money under their mattress. They want political power.
Gotcha.
So as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, billionaires can now buy elections. So they can spend as much money as they want. And that's what's happening. When you have one family, like the Koch brothers, it's an extreme right-wing billionaire family, they and a few of their friends are going to spend $900 million on this campaign. That is more money than the Democrats will spend, more money than the Republicans. What does that sound to you? Does that sound like democracy?
Definitely is not. But it leads me to ask this. I have a lyric where I say, you know, could it be the man behind the man behind the man behind the throne? I consider you a good man with grand ideas. But that pessimism and apathy that seeps into my community, into the general American community, says don't go out and vote, because whether those brothers buy Hillary or buy Trump or buy something that seeks for sale, how do we, I don't want to say how do we know you're not for sale or the seat's for sale. How do we know the presidency of the United States is not bought and paid for to the point where the grand ideas that you have that could help and radically change this country won't get stifled because of the money?
Well, first of all,
Even if
every speech that I give, that's what I say. I say, hey, do you think Bernie Sanders can do it alone? I can't. Let's be very clear about this. The powers that be, Wall Street, corporate America, the corporate media, campaign donors. Do you think if I go into the White House and I say, hey, you know, Wall Street, I got a great idea. I think you should pay a tax on speculation so that I can put all of our kids into college tuition free. What do you think they're going to say to me, Mike? Hey, that's a great idea, Bernie. Why didn't we think of that idea? What they will do is go nuts, right? How do we beat them? You only beat them when all kinds of people stand up and say, you know what, you guys, you are going to have to pay a tax on speculation so that young people in America will have the opportunity to go to college. I can't do it alone. No president. So to answer your question, I don't think I can do it alone.
Gotcha.
All right. But your good question is, how do we get people involved? And people have been disappointed. People have been hurt. And when you talk about the media watching the TV, I got to tell you, I think in many respects, media does an awful job in educating the American people about the reality of what's going on. And they got a reason to that too. You know something about the media, I suppose.
I do. You talk about the education of Americans. You seem to be the only politician that wants a smarter constituency. You seem to be the only politician that wants a smarter constituency. And now I understand why. Because you're one of the first politicians I've heard say it's a we. It is a collective of people. I believe that the people that got fired up in 2008 about Barack Obama, the ideas, not just the human being who's tall, slender, who had a cool looking family like, you know, the Cosby Show Part 3. It really was, he set forth ideas that we had been told for too long, don't wish that high. You are the natural evolution, I think, of our feeling. And I'm not saying he's part two of Barack Obama. In no way am I saying that. I'm not saying that he's here to carry on a political campaign started in 2008. No one's saying that. I'm saying that the feeling that I had of the hope and possibility of change, you have come and voiced an actual policy that you're willing to push through for all of us to get behind. And why aren't people seeing it that way?
Mike, we are taking on the world.
Gotcha.
I mean, you know, we're taking on a corporate media which is much more interested in looking at politics as a baseball game or as a soap opera rather than dealing with the real issues. Here, let me throw it out to you. You tell me if you've seen this on TV. As a result of technology, the average worker in America is producing a lot more, correct?
Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah. Why is the person, everything being equal, earning less money? Good question.
Very good question.
Why is the United States the only major country on earth that doesn't guarantee health care to all people? Good question.
It's a very good question.
All right. Is it moral that the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%?
Absolutely not moral.
All right. Do you hear that discussion on CNN and NBC? No. Not too often. So what we are trying to do, and I'm very proud, we're going to have a whole many thousands of people out here in Atlanta. You know, we had 27,000 people out in Los Angeles. All right. People are beginning to hear it, but I'm not a fool, and I know you don't change this country overnight. But the main thing is, and let me repeat it, nothing happens unless people stand up. You know, I just visited Dr. King's Center, all right? What was that whole thing about? You think he said, hey, I'm Dr. Martin Luther King, I'm a really smart guy, I'm a great orator, I'm going to change the world? He was a profound organizer, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's what he did, and that's what we have to do.
You went to the King March, you went to the I Have a Dream March, you were there. And you have consistently, you organized with SNCC. You like that's a pretty.
I know it makes it seem like ancient history.
Yeah, but that is on some rap language. That's some bomb shit. Like that is absolutely.
Look, this is what we felt. We were in the North. We were in Chicago. I was a student at the University of Chicago. What we saw, if I can use some bomb shit, is we saw our friends getting the shit kicked out of them and getting beaten to hell.
Gotcha.
All right, so we tried to get some money. They were the brave ones, not us. We got to get money there. And in Chicago, what we worked on is the fact that the school that I went to, a great prestigious university, turns out that they own segregated housing. How's that? So you know what we did? We'd send a black couple in to an apartment. They go in and say, hi, do you have any apartments available?
No.
Sorry, we just don't. An hour later, we sent the white couple in. Oh, yeah, let me show you the 3 apartments that we have available. So we kind of exposed that. We made an impact. We got involved in segregated schools in Chicago. But the issue that I love most about Dr. King is not just that he helped lead the civil rights movement and destroy segregation and so forth. This man was an incredibly courageous man. You know why he was courageous? If you were sitting, in a sense, all the media, everybody loved you, and you look at what you did. You got the Voting Rights Act, and you desegregated the South. What did he do next?
He preached against the war in Vietnam and poverty.
That's
he talked
exactly
about poverty
right.
And then everyone turned their back on him.
And they said, you know what they said to him? They said, you are an African-American leader. Your job is to worry about civil rights. Who the hell are you talking about the war in Vietnam? Why are you talking about distribution of wealth? But because this guy was a brilliant guy, and this is what I love about him. He began, his mind grew and grew and grew. That's a smart person. You know what I mean? You don't stay in the same place your whole life.
Absolutely.
And he began to understand. Yeah, so we broke down segregation at a lunch counter.
Absolutely.
What the hell difference does it mean if you can't afford the hamburger?
Absolutely.
If you can't afford to send your kid to school?
Absolutely.
And if you're talking about nonviolence, and the United States in the war in Vietnam was the major perpetuator of violence, you're a hypocrite if you don't talk about it. He was not a hypocrite.
And
that is an extraordinary man.
And this is what I have wanted to get to. King is often, and it's not by accident we're in a barbershop. And it's not only because I own the barbershop and it's a great business promotional opportunity. Barbershops seem to be the only place in my life that black men in particular have been able to speak the truth and not worry about getting killed. It's a place where beyond black men, working class men can come speak the truth without worrying about the boss cutting them off at the job. A lot of union organizing started happening in the back of a barbershop or whiskey house, you know. You have been, besides Alice Johnson, who was a white woman, my friend and mentor, besides James Orange, who was an organizer with Dr. King, is featured in that movie they did about Selma. Besides Joseph Lowry, besides Andrew Young, the people that I've met that I know from the civil rights movement, you're the only person who has dared to talk about Dr. King's connectivity or connecting war and poverty with segregation and racism, with the economy, with workers' rights, with women's rights. You're the only one in my 40 years that I've seen do this on a national stage.
Where was Dr. King when he was assassinated?
He was in Memphis.
Doing what? He was supporting a union effort
Absolutely.
to improve
Absolutely.
wages and working conditions for people who were terribly exploited. That's what he was doing.
Absolutely.
And what was he working on? What was the big project that he was working on in the last months of his life? A Poor People's March.
Absolutely.
Okay? That was not just African Americans. That was whites. That was Hispanics, Native Americans.
And that's exactly what I'm getting to. You have been the only candidate that I have seen able to connect people who were once disconnected in this way. And I believe the disconnection is something that is orchestrated. I believe it's something that's encouraged. I believe it's something that for the last at least 40, 50 years, there has been a political agenda to make sure that people choose teams. I often speak at colleges, and the number one thing I tell kids is they brought me here to talk about racism and to talk about police brutality because they know that's my box. I'm a black guy. I have to think about those things on a daily basis. But what I need you to do today, and I tell kids this, is to tell yourself as you come in the door, I'm going to put my team to the side. And I'm going to look at how my team is interconnected with these other teams and how can we as individuals be different, be different and help each other.
Let me tell you a story about that one, Mike.
Gotcha.
In the 1950s, what state in this country had the lowest paid white workers? What state? Take a guess.
I would imagine Georgia or Alabama.
Try Mississippi.
That makes sense.
Okay. What did the whole system tell these white workers who were the lowest paid white workers in the United States of America? In other words, these workers were being exploited. Yeah. What they said is, you can go to that water fountain and drink, and the black guy can't. You can go to that bathroom, you can go to that restaurant. Man, you got it good. Yeah. Meanwhile, we're paying you nothing. So you divided blacks from whites. In this case, whites from blacks. And this is what they always do. Then they go and they say, see that woman up there? She's an uppity woman. She wants your job, man. Yeah. You're not going to let that woman take your job. You got to divide from her. And that guy's gay over there, man. Yeah. You got to hate him. Yeah. Going to destroy your marriage because he's gay. You got to hate him. Oh, and there's a person speaks with a Spanish, a little bit Spanish. Yeah. Came from Mexico. You're supposed to hate that man. You're not going to work with those people. That has been what the ruling class has done over and over again. Why? Because they understand when we come together, you fight for decent wages, you fight for education for your kids, you fight to strengthen Social Security. We win, hands down. But if they divide us up, they win.
It's amazing, man. The Democratic Socialist guy uses the word "we" so much, and everyone else is saying the "I" or the "your." It's I have this or it's your problem. I just wish, man, that I wish to stay as angry as you. There are days where I just say, well, you can be relaxed. You're gonna retire middle class. You know your kids are okay, and yet I find a new reason to get angry every year. And I used to think that it was gonna kind of taper off. I tell myself I'm going to retire to Jamaica in 10 years, but I know it's a lie. I know that whenever this thing I do called rapping is over and singing and dancing, that I'm going to be angrily shouting out of someone's office in Atlanta.
That's being human.
Yeah.
If you see stuff that's bad and you don't respond with, what did King call it? The fierceness of the urgency of the moment or something. Yeah. Then you're not alive. So don't lose that anger.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
We in the hood, pit bulls are running like a DMX video. How great of effect did Dr. King have? Has he had on your life? It seems that you took up what he, and not just, what pulled me to you was your Voters' Rights Act interview. Well, you talked about the restoration of the Voters' Rights Act. And I remember thinking to myself, who the fuck is this crazy white guy? Like, it didn't even make sense to me because I have lived in Atlanta all my life and I virtually heard no black politicians angry about it. I virtually heard no black politicians outraged about it. You were the only voice of outrage.
Let me tell you something. This is true. I am a fierce believer in democracy. You know what? I love democracy.
Yeah.
I love the fact that in this room somebody disagrees with me. They say, Bernie, you're full of shit. I'm going to vote against you.
Yeah.
It's fine. I love it. I love people thinking about what kind of future they want. And I feel, because I've been in politics for many years, run in many elections, that these people all over America now, as a result of the Supreme Court decision to gut the Voting Rights Act, day after, they're sitting up thinking, all right, great. How do we deny people the right to vote?
Yeah.
They are cowards.
Absolutely.
They are cowards because they're afraid to contest a free and fair election. They can't win it. So they got to figure out, how do I come up with some cockamamie scheme to deny some little old lady the right to vote because she's going to vote against it? That disgusts me.
Yeah.
Profoundly disgusts me. So what we have got to do is in this country do what many other countries around the earth do. You're 18 years of age, you're registered to vote. Let's forget all the rest of the crap.
Yeah.
And if you want to commit voter fraud, you vote twice, you're going to pay a heavy price for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. But everybody has the right to vote. End of discussion. The other thing that I want to talk about, Mike, and I get back to the media on this, is that people think that some of the ideas that I advocate are very radical ideas. They are not radical ideas. Do you ever get up to Burlington, Vermont?
I haven't been to Burlington. If at invite, though, I'll definitely.
All right, you're invited.
I'll come.
All right. We live 50 miles from the Canadian border.
Okay.
Okay? Canada, everybody has health care as a right. It ain't a big deal. They've had it for, 50 years or so.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal. Go to the UK. You been to the UK?
Often.
All right. Everybody has health care. Go to Scandinavia. Everybody has health care. Go to Germany. Go to France. Everybody has health care. Why are we the only major country that doesn't have health care for all of our people? Not a radical idea. Go to Germany. Kids in the United States are going to Germany. You know why they're going to Germany? They can get free tuition in college there.
Yeah.
Good schools.
Absolutely.
All right. These are not radical ideas. So.
And you're not BSing because my rap partner and I, Run the Jewels, we travel the world. We've been around the world about 4 times now. We did 14 months straight. I spent my summer in Europe. And the first thing I ask Americans who preach fear of a one-payer healthcare system, for instance, I say, you ever been to Europe? Most Americans, God bless them, this is a beautiful country. We have every type of terrain, every type of weather you'd like. But if you've never been outside of the country, you have no way to appreciate, one, how great this country is, and 2, how potentially great the country could be if we can make some subtle changes. And I see in Europe, I see other things working. And I'm wondering how long before we catch up, and why do we keep having to play catch up when we could see a good idea, say we can implement this idea. This is a way for us to make an American, but this is a worthy idea. Free healthcare for citizens makes sense to me. College makes sense to me because the smarter constituency you have, the smarter country, you don't have to worry about importing other smart people.
You got it.
You're growing your own, and that way your imports are an addition and not a necessity to the point you're leaving yourself almost vulnerable. You know, how long before this country becomes or furthers the campaign of bullying until other countries are not willing to even cooperate with us, you know? So I don't get into the international politics of it all, but I travel and I see things that work other places, and I know they would work.
Well, this gets back to the point you raised a little while ago about greed. You know, I don't have a problem with people making money. But I do have a problem with these guys who are worth billions spending a lot of their money and their time and their energy. You know what they're trying to do? To destroy Social Security. Yeah. You got people in this community trying to get by on $12,000, $13,000 a year. Why in God's name would somebody stay up nights trying to cut their Social Security benefits, cut their Medicare, Medicaid benefits? That's pretty pathetic. Yeah. So, you know, if you've been around the world, you know that there are countries that do a lot better for the children. They have great child care. Okay, do better on health care, do better for seniors so when they retire they can live with a little bit more dignity and security than our seniors can. That's all. That's all I'm talking about. It ain't so radical.
There's an African proverb that says many hands make for light work. You know,
that's right.
And a lot of the tenements of socialism or social democracies are about, you know, everyone having some input. And I think that what people are missing from my community about not hearing your voice today, you're not saying, you know, sometimes we look up to rappers and athletes too much. And we think, and that's every American looks up to the rich. You know, Lifestyle Rich and Famous was here long before rap, you know, in terms of the opulence. But a lot of times we think, well, those people earned that the right way, they got it. And they don't understand now that I'm closer to being financially independent than I was, say, 5 years ago, my accountants give me different advice now. You know, I'm taught better ways to handle money that the regular public never gets an opportunity to have or see, you know. Fat Joe said, he was a rapper one time, he said, you know, I'm telling people to go out and vote, but I'm rich already. I'm okay. I don't even have to say this. I'm doing this for you guys. I need for my community to understand that your message directly impacts them. So I got to transition this conversation to prison, because some of the offers I've gotten to invest money in have been companies that supported private prisons. We have essentially, since Jim Crow in the South and the chain gang, which is big in Georgia, we have used prisoners essentially as indentured servants. I tell people, when I was a kid, I can remember driving along the expressway, and the expressway in Atlanta was cleaned by black men who worked for the city or the county or the state, you know, because I'm from a black city. And then as I got older into my teens and in my 20s, I started noticing that those crews were disappearing. So city workers who had their union, who were paid fairly, who lived in the communities that they were cutting, who as a kid, you got an opportunity to see, you know, if I get out of high school, don't go to college, I still can get a good job. Right. Those people started to fade. And the city trucks started to fade. And what I started to see was prisoners on the side of the road cleaning highways. And I thought you went to prison as punishment, not to be punished. And we haven't even gotten into the rehabilitation phase. But have we gotten comfortable as a country with Barack Obama being the first sitting president in I don't know how long to actually enter a prison? Is this campaign to ratify prisons, to stop an illegal drug war that really targets a particular color, race, and class of people? Do you continue that? And how vigorous are you going to be in that? Because that directly affects African-American males in particular.
Look, what is happening to the young male and female African-American community is a tragedy almost beyond words.
Thank you.
Right? But now, we are talking about, people disagree on the statistics, but roughly speaking, 1 out of 4 black male babies born today, if we do not change it, will end up in jail. Can you imagine that?
Absolutely.
You are talking about a higher percentage of blacks in jail in America today than was the case under apartheid in South Africa.
Absolutely.
Can you believe that? All right. You are talking about hundreds of thousands or even millions of black men who no longer have the right to vote.
Absolutely.
Because they were felons.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you change that?
Oh, yeah, we changed that.
So felons get a restoration of right to vote. What about getting a job, Senator
Sanders?
Felons,
the answer is yes. My state, that's already the case. Felons can vote.
Wow.
Why?
You got places like New York, I own a barbershop. One of the best barber schools in the nation is in one of their prisons. Yet in places like New York and even Georgia, if you're a felon, it's harder, if not impossible, to get a barber's license. Right. So not only can you not go get a job working for a corporation that exploits you, you can't even be self-employed to produce for yourself because the state doesn't allow you to.
And this is a point that I think not a lot of people are aware of. They're saying, all right, it's one thing, you sent 10 years in jail, that's terrible. You got a police record, you spent 1 year in jail, right? You go out looking for the job. Guy says, okay, tell me about, you say, where were you last year? Well, I was in jail. Oh yeah, well, have a nice day. We don't need you here, right? Yeah. You're finished. It's hard to make a living, it's hard to get credit, it's hard to do the things you need. Yeah. And then what happens? Then you're off and running into drugs and something else, right? And it gets worse. So I think this is an issue that we have got to absolutely focus on. And it's not just reforming police departments, it's not only doing away with minimum sentencing, but it is also taking a hard look at the so-called war on drugs, which has destroyed many people's lives. So what have I done? Just recently, for a start, as you know, the Controlled Substance Act, the Federal Controlled Substance Act, says that a Schedule I drug, it's marijuana, is the same as heroin. What do you think about that?
I'm a marijuana smoker. That is absolute bullshit.
Okay, of course it's crazy. Everybody knows that it's crazy. So we've taken, by legislation, would take marijuana out of the Controlled Substance Act completely. That means you're not subjected to federal prosecution. Yeah. And if your state wants to go forward and legalize marijuana, as 4 states have, well, they're not going to have any impediments from the federal government. Yeah. Do you know how many lives have been destroyed? Because you tell me.
Many I know.
Okay.
Many I know.
All right. People get smart possessing marijuana. What we also know where it becomes a racial issue is it turns out that whites and blacks utilize marijuana roughly equal in the communities. It turns out that's the case. 4 times as many blacks are arrested for possession as whites. It becomes a racial issue. So I think, this is an issue that we have got to absolutely deal with.
And I would love to see you just go on like a barbershop tour to say these things to black men in particular. Not because I think black men are a separate base that you have to speak to specially, but we get discouraged, man, and we just don't go vote. A lot of times when people are saying the Democratic vote is already, like people suppose the Democratic vote out of the state of Georgia and in Atlanta in particular is married to Hillary Clinton. That's what they think. I don't follow that thought. I think that there is a sleeping giant in this city of African American men in particular and women who have had uncles, nephews, sons, husbands, fathers involved in the prison complex illegally, but, formed by the state in those bullshit laws. I believe that there's a sleeping giant ready to wake up and support that candidate. And that's part of the reason I wanted to even sit here today. I need for people who look like me and who are sympathetic to people who look like me. I have a lot of white friends that are staunch advocates for things that have no effect on their general community. Honestly, it's a little better. If all the roadblocks are on my side of town and none of the roadblocks on there, I'll get caught with weed. They never will. But they're adamant about helping to make sure that this gets fair. I think that there's a sleeping giant of voters, and I want to see like barbershops and Masonic lodges and mechanic shops light up.
Look, you're looking at a guy. As I said, I love democracy. I've had more town meetings. You know what a town meeting is?
Yeah, absolutely.
In Vermont, we go to small towns, a few hundred people. We do a town meeting. People come out, we talk. All right, you take me to the barbershops, I'll be there.
Pause right quick. If someone wants to shut that dog up, we can grab some dog food and throw something over the fence for me if that's getting in you guys' way. All right, Winston, you mind doing that? I remember when we first conversed, I talked about the importance of getting you in the South. This is where your message needs to be and deserves to be heard. I want people to get out, get off their asses and vote. I want people to understand that our political process is something paid for in blood. As an American, before we get to the fact I'm a black man, the civil rights movement happened, people have died and courageously fought, walked across bridges in Selma, my own grandmother marched in Alabama. Before we get to that, this country is started as an act of political protest. Right. This country is started as an act. And I'll be damned if I don't encourage every friend of mine to vote based on the fact of we should be honoring that. It should almost be like a religion to be a part of the political process in this country because it transforms.
It strikes me that if you don't participate in the political process, you're really crapping on people who gave their lives to defend this country in World War II and elsewhere. And obviously, this country faces enormous problems. Obviously, The political system is decked on behalf of the wealthy, but that doesn't mean you walk away from it. It means you engage and fight back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like I've had people I know get cancer, and and I love them. You know, their decision, once you get cancer, your decision is your decision. There's some that have I've seen that just recline into themselves and I give up. I fight the fight. I fought the fight. I can fight them. And there are other people who get fucking angry.
Mike, you know why you don't have the right to give up? How many kids you got?
4.
All right, so it's not just about you.
Yeah.
Because if you give up, what happens to your 4 kids? What happens to my 7 grandchildren?
Absolutely.
All right, so you don't have the moral responsibility. It's not your life. It's your kid's life.
Absolutely.
So we got to fight back. And here's the very good news. On issue after everything that we have talked about, the vast majority of the American people, white, black, Hispanic,
Absolutely.
they're on our side.
I agree.
All right. How many people agree with Republicans who want to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut Social Security and Medicare? Should we take a long walk and see if we can find one person who agrees with that? And these guys may win the election because people don't vote and don't pay attention. That's what our job is.
The type of violence that I've seen, I played Mexico City yesterday, and I totally pulled a cheat card. I said, fuck Trump. And basically 20,000 Mexican citizens repeated it. But I just say that because I feel like that in my heart. I even tell that to Jesus Christ. But beyond that, how dangerous is it that a man just got beat up at his political rally? I mean, I saw 2 people storm your stage who were passionate and vehement about something that I adamantly care about. You know, the lives of all people. You know, Black lives matter because all lives matter. You know, all lives matter. Therefore, Black lives, Asian lives, homosexual lives, all lives matter. But you handled it with a grace and a tact that you didn't have to. You could have been pugilant. You could have been angry. You could have been dismissive, and you didn't. You stood there respectfully and you listened. So if no one else said it, thank you and congratulations, because I appreciate you not demeaning those 2 young women and allowing that. And I don't know if you've been thanked for that. But I saw Trump literally almost incite that. Have we gotten too far? Like, is it
Look,
going
Mike,
to get worse because of the admiration for people?
We gotta move very aggressively. This is what happens. You got a lot of people in this country who are angry. And they're angry because their jobs went abroad. They don't have any money to take care of their family.
Yeah.
They don't know why they're angry, why things in their lives are going badly. There was a study that came out recently. I don't know if you saw it. It's the front page of the New York Times. White working class families are seeing, men and women, are seeing a decline in their life expectancy. Do you know that?
I did.
Their mortality rates are going up. Unemployment is high. They're doing drugs, suicide, very serious problem. Just the white community, not the black community, okay? People are angry and they're frustrated. So somebody like Trump comes along, and what does he say? He says, you're angry and you're frustrated? It's that black guy there. That's the guy.
Those Mexican immigrants.
Yeah, and they're criminals and they're rapists. We got to keep them out. Or, you know what? It's the Muslim across the street. You know that woman has the thing on her head? That's your enemy right there. And you play on people's fear and anxiety. This is the oldest story in the book. You know, it's the Jews and it's the Irish and the Italians.
It's
and the blacks.
McCarthyism again. It is.
Right.
It is like, it amazes me that people run from you as though he's a socialist, but they embrace Trump's philosophy that's a gratuitous fascism. It is fascist to run identity checks on people, to essentially give them electronic scarlet letters. That is Mussolinian.
Yes.
That is Hitlerian, and yet no one is saying no. Like, no, this we can't do this. It's scary. You know, it's scary, Senator. It really is.
What's scary about Trump is you see what happens. You got a lot of people out there who feel certain ways. And then you see somebody who's running for president say these things. Oh, Trump said that. I can say that. I could beat up the Muslim in my community. Right? All right. I could be a racist on a college campus now because, you know, that's the climate. So you're right. It is scary.
What's your advice to young Americans? Like, what has kept you from 1961 forward? What has kept you from that college kid who organized, you know, with SNCC? I still find that amazing. What has kept you?
Why do you find it so amazing?
Because that's not the narrative we've been taught. I don't find it personally amazing. I find it amazing I didn't know you. I'm finding it amazing 20 years ago you weren't already on my radar.
But that's because look, I'm known in my own state, 98% of the people.
But
Nobody,
you should be-
nobody in Georgia knows me. The television is not particularly interested.
But I should. I'm from the activist community. I should know you.
Well.
You should be. You know, in every black barbershop, there's 2 black guys and an honorary white guy. So when I was growing up, it was Martin Luther King, Jesus, and Black Jesus in my shop, and Jack Kennedy. You know what I mean? So in my shop, like you're really about to get the heralded position of the white guy. It's going to be like Martin, Malcolm, Bernie. I truly believe in your ideas. One of my very conservative friends, I'd say more libertarian, Shelley Winters, was a black guy. Did a phenomenal show here years ago on WAOK. But I talked to him this morning because I consult both sides. I have very liberal friends. I have very conservative friends. I'm a capitalist that's backing socialists for president. I found that my politics is very mixed up because, it's pragmatic stuff. But Shelley was saying, he said, Mike, make sure that you know that Bernie can win. Make sure that in your pressing to get his ideas out, that you're not pressing to make sure the ideas are out in case he falls out of the race, because he can beat Hillary and he can win this presidency. Now, this is a friend of mine who's conservative. This is a friend of mine who doesn't agree with all of my or your politics, but the ideas that you have talked about so greatly affect the community we're from. I can't say he's endorsed you, but he damn sure wanted to make sure that I provided people who are on the other side of that camera
Let me say a word.
it can happen.
Let me say a word on that. What anybody who knows anything about politics understands is Democrats win when people vote.
Yeah.
Republicans win like they did last year when nobody votes, okay? Obama in 2008 ran a brilliant campaign. Not only did he win, he brought in a lot of people with him.
Absolutely.
Okay. What I can tell you is, I don't know how many people we'll have out tonight in Atlanta, maybe 5,000, 6,000 people, okay? We have brought out hundreds of thousands of people all over this country. We have more individual contributors than any candidate in American history, more than Obama at this particular point in the election, okay? So when you look at, we are generating excitement, and the only way Democrats win is when young people and working class people start coming out and voting. I think we can do that.
I've spoken at MIT this year. I've spoken at Florida State University, spoken at Morehouse. I've been on many campuses this year. Every campus I've went on, there have been devout followers of yours, overwhelmingly in my audience. Can I talk about something we might disagree on?
Let's do it.
I'm from the South. I like guns. I like guns a lot. I own guns. My father was a police officer and was a gun owner. He was a police officer. Also was a union steward, which is another reason I'm so on the bandwagon with you.
He was a union student within the...
No, he was a union steward with the gas company after he left the police force. But I have a two cousins that are currently on the police force, and that both are police union members too. So I support you wholeheartedly when it comes to unions.
Let's talk about guns.
And I don't want to, but guns. And I'm not saying I'll disagree. I say we may. I represent a group of people only 50 years into freedom. I represent a group of people who are being killed by the people who their tax money pays. I represent a group of people who are in urban areas because of poverty and because of being ignored by government in places like Chicago. Certain areas have become pockets of violence, less violent than 20 years ago. But it's certainly harder for, if I'm a husband and a father and a homeowner, to defend my homestead in case of things. What is your true stance to guns, speaking to my community directly now, because we have a different view of gun ownership where I'm from?
Okay. Well, my state, you know how much gun control there is in the state of Vermont?
How much?
None. Virtually none. Okay. In my state, what a gun means is you go out hunting. A lot of people hunt.
Here too. Absolutely. I got some deer meat in the freezer.
All right, let's sit down and eat it.
You should.
All right, so you got a lot of hunters. You got a lot of guys who do target practice. You got a lot of gun shows, people looking to antique guns and stuff like that.
And I know you want to close those loopholes.
Right. All right, so here's the story. Do people have a right to own weapons? Of course they do. Okay? But what don't people have a right to do? Should somebody who has a criminal record or has a record of beating up his wife, should they be able to get a gun? I don't think so. So what you need is enforced and strong instant background checks. You got a problem with that?
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
And Bill O'Reilly can't own a gun, so that's good. Because we know what he does.
Yeah. All right. So instant. This guy's trying to get me into real trouble here. I can see that.
I wanted you to be my president.
All right. And all right, so you got instant background checks.
Gotcha.
Question: this was where we may disagree. All right, some guy walks down the street with an assault weapon, military weapon. Is he right to have that gun?
I say yes, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
I really believe the part of the Constitution that says that's our last defense against tyranny. I believe that if you're involved in the voting process, that's your first defense against tyranny, to be actively and politically engaged. And I definitely believe, because I represent a group of people that's only 50 years into freedom. And I also represent a group of people where, if we judge by the last 2 years, it's okay to shoot them down in the street, whether you're an officer or not, based on the Zimmerman case down in Florida. And I don't want the people I pay to be able to own something I don't. And I do also know this about assault weapons or military grade weapons. The AR-15 replica that I can buy from a Walmart is not the same thing a servicemen use. It's not fully automatic. I don't have oftentimes the magazine capacity they will. And, you know, more likely than not, I'm not going to be engaged in a situation where I'm actually using it. So I don't see the need to
Okay.
ban.
Well, that's one we disagree on.
Okay.
All right.
Respect.
All right. Next one, the gun show loophole.
Yeah.
All right. I think we got to end that.
I can't get mad at you for straw purchases.
That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. I can't argue.
So the gun show loophole is a way to avoid the instant background check.
It is.
And then you got another one is with the straw man situation. You go in there, you're perfectly legal, you buy 20 guns.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're giving out to...
I can understand closing
That's
the
it.
loophole.
Those are my
Absolutely.
views.
Absolutely.
That's it. So we disagree on assault weapons.
We do.
All right, that's fine.
That's it.
All right,
I
but
can
I
live.
think what I want to do is to try...
And let me say this. That doesn't jump me off your boat. You know, for people who may see this conversation, that's not enough to get me off the Bernie Sanders bus. You know, and I just like other gun owners to know that.
Right. Right. So, you know, I have gotten criticized, as you may know,
I
by
do know.
my opponents that I'm a hack of the NRA and all of that stuff, and that's cool.
And I'm an NRA member, and I
right.
have a tremendous amount of respect
Yeah,
for you.
okay. So that's where we are. All
They
right?
didn't send that question either. And I'm not a fan of Wayne LaPierre. Yeah. More of a fan of Colin Moore, the black guy they got over there. They got a great token black guy. He's a lawyer. He's young. He's smart. He's progressive. He probably may be secretly voting you. I hope he is. So, I mean, thank you for your honesty and your candidness on that, because I know that's another one of the things, or the things that people hold up to try to get people to be afraid of you. And after I read up on your stance, I pretty much knew it was liberal enough for me to say I could still go with this guy, because, you know, what happens if assault weapons do get banned? At the end of the day, it's still one of the only countries in the free world where citizens are allowed to own guns. And I'm not going to. That's something, as I do travel through Europe and places like that, that's one of the questions I get. I get two questions. I get, can you guys own guns for real? And yeah. And then I get, do you know Gucci Man? You probably don't, but kids always want to know if I know Gucci Man. I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to have you in this city. I hope that this city, with the legacy of Dr. King, I figured you already went. We're looking at the top of Ebenezer Baptist Church. They're not the historic one, but the new one. Reverend Warnock may be running for Senate. He's the only minister whose church I stumble into a couple times a year, because he preaches the same thing that you are doing politically, social justice. And I'd be interested to see more preachers from my community talk about social justice. I think that during the Bush years, somehow they got caught up in federal money. And I think that without the black church, the black community politically is suffering, because the black church used to serve as a place where organizing happened, and organizational tools were taught. And, you know, again, I hope the black church kind of gets with your campaign also. I hope they see that the things you're talking about are the things that the biblical Jesus talked about. Look at your face. No one, yeah, that's not it.
Now you're going into another area.
But it's the truth of it. You know, you can't call yourself, and I'm not a religion. You know, I'm the guy in the back of the room smoking a joint, saying, I wonder if anything is really out there. You know, I'm the guy that's just watching as much Carl Sagan as probably my Christian neighbors are watching Joel Osteen. So I can't promise you that I have faith in any of the three major Abrahamic religions in that. But I do know the philosophy of Jesus has so touched my community.
Do unto others
as you would have them do unto you.
That's about it.
So I hope that the church from my community gets behind, because what you're preaching, social justice, is what they're talking about on Sundays.
That is right. All right.
I know you're hungry. I'm not going to keep you here all day. We probably should grab food. I hope, and keep talking on some candid stuff.
Okay, this is great. I really enjoyed it. All right, we're going to continue this conversation.
Peace.